Hey, this is Wilson. No Jason this week as always. What's up, Galvis?
What's going on, Wilson? Thank you to everybody who's out there listening to our podcast the day after probably would you say the most disappointing season in LA sports history?
I
Probably,
was
right?
I would say all things considered, yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people saw this, I don't think anybody thought it would be this bad, no matter
No,
what.
everybody said, okay, they'll nobody in their wildest imagination thought they'd not even make the play in, right? And then it was February, and then it was March, and it's like, all right, as long as we get the play in, and we avoid the Warriors, we'll be fine. But it's just obviously last night Lakers officially get eliminated. Um, a lot to talk about because there's so many factors. Was it coaching? Was it the team that was constructed? Was it the culture? Um, but would you say, are you more upset or disappointed? Because
Um,
there's two different feelings.
I think I'm probably more. I don't know, bro. I kind of feel numb to it. You know,
Like it
it's
almost
like
doesn't feel real, right?
yeah, I kind of don't feel anything. You know, it just. I mean, it was bad from the start. And then it kept going, and we kept going. Okay, well, everybody. I mean, we at least thought they would make the play in, and then they just kept losing and losing and losing and losing. I think they've lost 7 in a row now after last night, and then it gets to the point where we get to the season, and it's like, well, they're not even going to make the play in, are they? And
Yeah,
it's
because I
like, no.
remember, I remember in March. I remember in March it was like, okay, we're gonna for sure we're gonna make the plan because we were like, I think in eighth place, but we were like 6 or 7 games ahead of New Orleans and San Antonio. So you're like, okay, well, as long as we get to the play-in, anything can happen. Especially since the Warriors started to kind of fall off. You're like, okay, you know, maybe we get lucky and we play the Grizzlies and they're inexperienced and AD is healthy and LeBron is healthy.
Hmm.
It can happen. But for them to just, go out without a fight, but there's many factors, obviously. But let's just get one thing out the window, and let's just be very blunt, right?
Hmm.
If Anthony Davis plays, how many games did they play this year? Was it 72 or was it 82?
No, it's a full 82.
84, 82. If he plays 65 games, they're not in this position,
No.
right? Let's just say what it is.
Hmm.
So, you know, that's not an excuse, but it is it is what it is. And so, um, you know, a lot of disappointments throughout everything. There was not one shining thing in this season. You know, we didn't even have a young player to say, okay, this guy could be a future star, right?
Hmm.
Nothing. Horton Tucker was just complete garbage. Um, and what are your thoughts on, like, let's just start with the biggest situation, LeBron. How much of this is LeBron's fault? And I'm not talking about his play on the court because, the guy did everything he could. How much of this is LeBron's fault off the court?
Well, Magic said yesterday, talking to Greeny on ESPN, that he had it set up where we could have gotten we could have got signed DeRozan outright, traded Kuzma for Buddy Hield, and then been able to have still keep Caruso and keep KCP, keep the people who are part of our championship culture, our defensive the culture, championship DNA. And he said, but then by that time, Westbrook and LeBron were already having discussions, and that was pretty much the direction it was going to go in. So for LeBron to want this to happen, which by all accounts, that's what happened. LeBron wanted Westbrook. So a big part of this is on LeBron. Um,
Now, is it that black and white where Lakers wanted DeRozan but LeBron wanted Westbrook, and that's why they went with Westbrook? I mean, is it that black and white, or is
It
there more?
seems like it to me because none of the DeRozan wanted the Lakers as much as anything. He wanted to come. He's from here. He's from Compton. You know, so that was one thing. Then I think AD pretty much, I think they both signed off on it, because AD is just as important.
But
Um,
but I also heard where the Lakers were going to get DeRozan, but they weren't willing to give him more than a 2-year deal. Because remember, DeMar had this MVP season, but he was kind of washed up last year. Nobody saw this coming.
no.
He
Um,
kind of cooled off at the tail end. He was no longer a serious MVP candidate like he was in January and February. But can you imagine a team with DeRozan, Buddy Hield, and you still kept Caruso and KCP?
it's a completely different story. And you asked about AD, if he had played 65 games, would we be in this position? We wouldn't be in this position, but I don't know if we'd be. If that's how bad it is. Would we be the seventh seed? You know, we might be in that Clippers seed still. If we're 31-48, I guess AD's missed about 30 games or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just hard to say. I guess we just probably have a better record than the Clippers do, but I'm not sure we'd be the
exactly.
seventh seed.
No,
Um,
I'm not saying we would be a top 4 seed, but you
But I'm
know,
saying that's still far below what you would expect of a team. If we're only good enough to be the eighth seed, even if guys are relatively healthy, you know.
yeah,
And then I think you have to put blame on because LeBron himself has missed. He's played in 56 games with 3 to go, so he's missed 23 games. Um, and then so it's on those two. Then for one, they sign off on the deal. Number two, they miss so many games, so it's really not a chance for them to ever try to gel and see if it can work. And then it's on Palinka for pulling the trigger on the trade. And then it's on Frank Vogel, who's going to get canned after the season. And he played a part in it too because it never made sense that I was thinking, I think everybody was, that them bringing in Russell Westbrook, that meant that it was to take some of the load because LeBron was leading the league in scoring before Embiid went for 45 last night. So I'm thinking when they're bringing in Westbrook, they're thinking, okay, LeBron's getting older. We have to have somebody out there as far as a ball handler and a distributor, a playmaker, and a scorer on the perimeter who can take some of the pressure off LeBron in those
yeah. But
areas.
here's the thing. I know you mentioned before, like he would have been a great 6 man. When those conversations were happening with between LeBron and AD and Russell Westbrook, they weren't talking about, hey Russell, come off the bench, man. You're gonna be amazing. Like, bro, we need a great 6. No, you know what they were talking about, right? And the problem with Frank Vogel when they won the championship, the bubble championship, was he only had to manage 2 egos, and it was
Mhm.
clear LeBron was 1, AD was 2, or it was like 1A, 1B. But now you have 3, and it's a lot difficult, more than any other sport, to manage egos in the NBA. But um, and then now let's talk about the disappointment of how serious was LeBron's ankle really? That he couldn't even go out to at least try to play. I heard from a lot of people. Well, Kobe played with a dislocated shoulder, dislocated finger, torn ligament in his finger. Um, you know, uh,
All these different things.
but you know,
If he could run, he was going to play, even if he had to shoot left-handed sometimes.
who Kobe?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. He would have at least tried to play. He would have said, "Okay, I can't go in practice. I can't go in the shoot around. Put me in the game. Let me see if I can at least go for a couple minutes." Right? He would have never. It took a torn Achilles to fucking get him off the court, and even
hmm
then, he still walked and shot the free throws. Right?
hmm And I actually think, man, it's like Vogel was set up to fail, but he also had a hand in his own
Yeah.
his own failure. And then at the same time, I think Westbrook, I think out of anybody, I think actually Westbrook, even though he probably got more blame than anybody this season, I think Westbrook is the one person who maybe deserves no blame because at least he plays every night, you know,
And
and
he plays hard.
yeah, and he was trying to make it work, you know, but he was put in a position to a position to fail, you know, from the beginning. So,
Yeah.
you know, I
But
don't.
yeah, it's very, we were talking right before we came on. Lakers have never been in this bad of a situation because when Magic retired, they only had one losing season, and they were very competitive in the '90s. Even though you knew they weren't going to win the championship, they were very competitive. Kobe Shaq came along, won 3 championships. Shaq's get traded, but you have a 24, 25-year-old Kobe who's the best player in the league, right?
Mhm.
And then after the three-peat, they try what they try now. They get Dwight Howard, they get Steve Nash. It doesn't work out, and they have a couple down years. But it's like, okay, we're gonna be in the lotto, we're gonna be in the draft, and we're gonna get good players. Those good players, those draft picks turned out to be pretty good players, and they were able to get Anthony Davis, and they were able to get a championship out of it. But now we have a 38-year-old LeBron who, behind closed doors, could probably be the biggest diva ever, right?
Ever.
Ever. And you
Because
have a
Michael
top,
Jordan, I
huh?
mean, Michael Jordan he mainly just let Jerry Krause do his job, you know? LeBron's behind closed doors with Rich Paul trying to pull strings and get this to happen and get that to happen. You know, Michael Jordan wasn't doing that. You
And
know, Michael Jordan just played
Jerry
basketball.
Krause said, he goes, I don't care how you assemble the team. I'm going to win the championship anyways,
Hmm.
right? So you have a 38 LeBron who might be the biggest diva ever behind closed doors. You
Hmm.
have Anthony Davis, who's a top 5 talent, but is probably not even a top 15 player right now. Nobody wants him. He's 1 year into this mega deal. The only asset you have is expiring Russell Westbrook contract. Now that's a big contract. It's like 40 mil, I think. But you have no young players to package him with. You're basically just trading away Russell Westbrook's contract. That's it. You know, you have no young players. I don't even think you have draft picks. Um, and what's the
And
point of trying to get a lottery pick this year? This is the second year in a row where you know it's not like a franchise. I mean, we had some okay rookies. Kate Hunt Cunningham looks like he's going to be good. Jalen Green looks like he's going to be really good in Houston. But
Mobley's a franchise player, but it's not. I don't think there's. I don't know anybody. I don't. I mean, I guess I don't think there's anybody in this draft who's going to be as good as Mobley, and I don't
no,
think there's anybody in this draft who maybe because Green and Cunningham they've been coming on strong as of late. You know, they kind of have to get their feet wet. Mobley was a star right from the beginning, but yeah, this draft it's not a draft for
look at how really well Cleveland has rebounded without having the pressure of having LeBron in their ear all the time. They
Hmm.
drafted Sexton, okay player. Then they got Darius Garland, all-star starter, and they got
Hmm.
Evan Mobley, who you said Garland and Mobley, they stick around, they stay healthy. Sky's the limit for both of them. So
Yeah,
now what do you just, huh?
their team building has been amazing since LeBron left. You know, their
Yeah.
big thing before LeBron got there and after LeBron left
Oh, it's completely different.
yeah, it was the word. I mean, they would always have high draft picks, and other than Kyrie, they would miss pretty much. You know, it'd be the wrong guy every time. You
Look at
know,
Anthony Bennett.
yeah. And then they drafted Tristan Thompson like fourth overall. I mean, he's a pretty good player, but surely there were other guys they could have taken there who would have, you know.
Yeah.
So, but just back to LeBron's ankle. I think, and we were just talking about this a couple of days ago, just having a regular, conversation. But I mean, and everybody, you see more people. Floyd Mayweather has said something about it. I saw Colin Cowherd say something about it yesterday. But these guys who miss games, just like, I mean, there's nobody who tries to play through injury anymore. You know, like other than maybe I guess Giannis. Who last year he came back two games after uh, that injury he suffered in the playoffs last year, that knee injury. But there's nobody in the NBA anymore who, like when we were coming up, guys play through injuries all the time. Like Kenny Smith used to say, you can play if you're hurt, you can't play if you're injured. But a lot of these guys, if you just have like a regular, like minor ankle sprain or something like that, that's
they'll sit out for a month.
yeah, and that's just if you just have an ankle,
But you know
if
what
it's
it is though? What it is that these guys get paid so much money now. They don't care.
yeah.
You know, um, it, you know. To what percentage of the league would you say the players look at like just a regular job, like no
Bro,
different than my job?
I don't know if I can put a percentage on it, but anybody who's not trying to make it, so anybody who's like an established player where they know, they either have a contract or they know with their next contract they're gonna be able to
But they
get
don't
another
want to play.
contract.
They don't want to play through injury because they don't want to further injure themselves.
Yeah, but any other than anybody who's like just struggling and grinding and trying to get to that first contract, anybody else, man, it's nothing but just almost like it's like people say Kyrie treats basketball like it's a part-time job. That's how most of these guys look at basketball
But
these
that's what I'm
days,
saying.
man.
Like Kyrie didn't play last year. He didn't play, or what was it, 2 years ago? He didn't play the whole bubble. He signed with Brooklyn. He missed the first couple months. He plays for 2 weeks and then he needs time off. Like, bro, what the fuck? This ain't no 9 to 5. You're gonna call in sick, you know? And the thing is that it's unfortunate to players that or people that really have like mental problems that now it just gets thrown around like it cheapens it, right? Now
Hmm.
anybody can say, "Oh, I'm going through mental anxiety, or I'm going through some mental issues. I need a day off, or I need this." Like, you know, who can take Kyrie serious? Like, come on, bro. You
Hmm.
know, but but it's very disappointing. Obviously, I'm more disappointed than mad because I don't get mad anymore because the Lakers don't mean what they used to when we were growing up, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if this was 2005, I'd probably be crying right now. You know, that really doesn't matter to me, because like I know we've said on the podcast before, any team moving forward, it doesn't feel the same because they're just parts that are just thrown in there, right? You don't get
Hmm.
to grow with these players, right? So like the first Kobe 3P, Ori, Fox, Shaq, um, Fish, like we had 4 or 5 years with them, and we grew to like really know these players. Same
Hmm.
with same with when they went to three straight finals with Kobe. You had
Hmm.
Sasha, Odom, Gasol, Bynum, like it was
Hmm.
the same players. Now it's like the rentals.
Hmm.
But
And LeBron himself, I mean, LeBron is not a natural Laker. LeBron doesn't feel like a Laker. Uh, they just I don't know, man. It's just Anthony Westbrook is really the guy, and he's just been here 1 year. But because he's from LA and he grew up a Laker fan and stuff like that, he feels like the most natural Laker, on the roster. Like who if he stayed away, if things hadn't gone so badly. I mean, Russ coming here, we wanted to root for Russ. We've been rooting for him. We wanted Russ to succeed and win a championship here because he's one of our own. He's from Los Angeles. You know,
you'll
but
never like, even though you grow up a Laker fan, right? Because a lot of people grow up Laker fans. But when you grew up as a Laker fan, and you were born and you grew up in LA, it hits different, bro. It hits
Mm-hmm.
different. It's like you could grow up in, I don't know, somewhere in Idaho or something, or wherever, and you could be a hardcore Laker fan. But unless you grew up in LA, you'll never know what that feeling is like. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if you root for the Cowboys, but
Mm-hmm.
you didn't grow up in Texas, you don't get that full like feeling.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we wanted Westbrook to uh we wanted Westbrook to succeed. You know, he's one of our own.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just all this. Basically, everything revolves around AD. All this is around AD because he was supposed to be that guy, man. Going back to the teams that we didn't grow up with, like that Lonzo, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, uh, who else?
Yeah. Lonzo, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram,
Kuzma.
Kuzma.
That team could have been that one team that really we could have liked. But now I don't know if we ever would have won a championship with them. But
Yeah, Lonzo. I mean, no, but that was you're right. Lonzo and Kuzma. I mean, those two especially were like super fan favorites. You know, and Lonzo only played 2 years, but 2 years here, but he was like our baby. You know, he was
yeah,
because that's another guy who's from LA. Ingram never quite. But still though, we like Josh Hart though. You know, so that was a team that
but
could have.
these were more role players than superstars.
Yeah, they're
But
supporting players.
yeah, um, but like I said, man, I mean, it's definitely a sad time to be a Laker fan. I know a lot of people who hate the Lakers. They're just basking in their glory. But it just goes to show how great the Lakers franchise is, though. Like the fact that there's all this hoopla around them missing the playoffs. No other team in the NBA, maybe other than Brooklyn, because of their star power, not because of the franchise. No other team in the NBA can like compare to the drama that is the Lakers. Remember when Philly was so bad for like what 6 years? What were they? Didn't they have a nickname like a tanking nickname or something?
Trust the process.
Yeah, and they did
Oh, look,
they missed the playoffs like 8 straight years, and they were horrible. Nobody cared. When the Celtics were bad, nobody cared. Like when the Bulls were horrible, nobody cared. It's even, and it just goes to show like the Lakers. Remember when that year where they had Xavier Henry, Robert Sacre, Jordan Hill, and
hmm
they were still on TNT, bro.
yeah,
They
and
were still on
people still
national TV.
people still talk about those teams. Any other
Yeah,
team that had a sucky team, it's just like whatever. They just forgotten about. When the Lakers were like really terrible and going 17-65, people still remember the guys who were on those teams.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy, but
um,
um, so okay, so now we're done bitching about the season. It's over. Woulda, coulda, shoulda doesn't count. What do we do next?
well, you mentioned Westbrook having his expiring contract, and the thing about that is that uh, nobody's going to be looking to do the Lakers any favors. That's one thing about it. We know that. I mean,
And if the
the Lakers,
Lakers and if
the
the
Lakers
and
have been.
if you're gonna trade with the Lakers, you're gonna make them pay, bro.
Yeah. Well, actually, but guys, when I think about it, the Lakers have been. I mean, they have. I mean, there have been many teams that have done the Lakers favors. When I think about it, I mean Memphis, but that was a Jerry West thing with Gasol. But we know that around the league, the Lakers are like, you know, um, kind of like the most hated team in the league, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So, um, but did you see guys where they're saying that when they fire Vogel, two names that keep being brought up as potential replacements are Quinn Snyder from the Jazz and Doc
Mhm.
Rivers.
You know, I don't. Doc Rivers seems like a really cool guy and a players coach and this and that, but it just seems like he always has problems with players. Like there's always problems. Like
But
I know right now.
I just think like if you think about um like I don't think they go 31-48 with Doc Rivers as the coach this year. Because Doc Rivers is good at coaching teams that are like undermanned. So the Lakers having all these different injuries, it's like Doc Rivers is at his best when the team is kind of lacking in, LeBron. Listen, AD missed half the season, and LeBron missed 23 games. So it's not like when he was coaching that one Clippers, that those last Clippers teams he coached, where before Paul George and Kawhi got here, when they still made the playoffs. That was like an incredible. He did the same thing that his first year coaching in Orlando, but but he's. I just think for me, I've always said that if you look at the two coaches who've had the most success as coach of the Lakers, it's Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, right? So two coaches who like transcended coaching to become like celebrities and become it like as big as like the stars they were coaching. Riley was Riley was a superstar in the 80s, and Phil Jackson, when he got to the Lakers, he was already a star because of winning 6 championships. But when he got to the Lakers, in a lot of ways, Phil Jackson was just as much of a marquee name as Shaq and Kobe were, in certain ways. So I just like that. I kind of like the Doc Rivers idea because he has that type of big personality like that. And if you're talking about drama, man, now imagine throwing Doc Rivers in the mix,
Yeah,
and what it
and
would be
Doc
like.
Rivers, I think what I heard a snippet of an interview where he basically throws James Harden under the bus, and
Hmm.
it's like, whoa, that could probably be why players are turned off by him because they asked him, you know, the bench struggled and this and that, and he goes, well, to be fair to the bench, they only did 12 shots. That's on Harden. Like,
Hmm.
damn, bro, like what the hell, like.
Phil used to do that.
Yeah, but
Phil
Doc
used to.
Rivers ain't Phil, bro. But Doc Rivers
But
ain't
I
Phil.
understand. I like the drama because the Lakers have
Yes,
always
but you
been.
gotta understand, like these players are baby now. Though. We said it already. They can't take criticism. Criticism for them is hating, right? There's
Mhm.
no such thing as constructive criticism for these players. Um, but like for example, Stephen A. He said it perfectly. He goes, "The Los Angeles Lakers quit these last several weeks of the season. They quit on Frank Vogel. You know,
But
um,
I like. But I see the thing about the drama. HBO right now is running a series about the Showtime Lakers. And all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And it's always been a franchise that had a very colorful cast of characters and superstars with different stuff going on, big personalities, people with personality sort of I don't know, I don't want to call it a personality disorder, but something stuff like that. People with insecurities and different problems and stuff like that, and it manifests themselves in different ways. And then of course we know the Shaq, Kobe, Phil Lakers, all the drama that was. But the thing about it is that the drama that was going on those teams was happening when they were winning championships. The drama's not nearly as fun when they're 31-48. You know,
yeah.
um, so it's like it kind of doesn't matter. I think Quinn Snyder's, is he a better coach than Frank
Okay,
Vogel? I don't
this is
know.
how. Actually, let's just say this. Okay, the Memphis Grizzlies were 18 or 20-2 without John Morant.
Yeah,
Take John Morant off the Lakers. Are they that much? Are they 20-2 better than the Lakers? No. So what is that? Is that coaching?
Yeah,
right? Like
I mean,
like
the,
look at look at these other teams. Like I think the Memphis is like the best um you know example. For example, let me see. Let's see who else. Uh New Orleans. They didn't have Zion all year,
mhm.
and they made it to the play-in. The
Yeah,
Clippers. The Clippers didn't have Paul George or Kawhi all season, basically, and they're in the playoffs,
hmm
right?
the but it's crazy. The Memphis thing is like mind boggling because they lost last night in overtime, but they went to so now they fell to 20-3 without John Morant, and all their players other than Morant are role players.
Exactly.
I've never seen a
Listen.
team.
Let me read you the roster real quick. Durant. I'm not obviously going to include John Morant or even. That's it.
That's pretty. Yeah, he's the only guy.
Jaren Jackson is an okay player, but he's nowhere
Yeah,
near. He's just a really good role player. But let's see: Jarrett Culliver, Tyus Jones, Tyrell Terry, Desmond Bain, DeAnthony Melton, Concher, Dylan Brooks, Zaire Williams, Eves Pons, Kyle Anderson, Santi Aldama, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman, Killian Tile. Bro, what the?
how are they 20-3 with those guys? It doesn't make any sense. In the history
Exactly.
of basketball, this has never happened before.
No. So now what does that tell you? Is that coaching?
Yeah, it has to be.
Right?
Um,
And
there's
then
some good young coaches.
I think the most disappointing thing for the Lakers, dude, honestly, was that everybody saw last year that anything can happen in the playoffs, right? The Lakers were a
Mhm.
big favorite, and Anthony Davis goes down in the first round, and they never win a game. The
Mhm.
Suns win three straight. And then you look at the Suns that made it to the finals, right? They played the Lakers without Anthony Davis. They passed. They beat the Nuggets without Jamal Murray. They beat the Clippers without Kawhi. You know, and so I really, it might just be me being a Lakers bias, but I think that if they could have avoided Golden State until the Western Conference Finals, they probably could have gotten there with a healthy AD and LeBron. Because I think in the playoffs, it's like a completely different season. But who knows, right?
Yeah.
Like if they got lucky and they got a very favorable draw, like let's say in the first round they get Memphis. Okay, inexperienced Memphis team, they beat them. And then the second round, like they get a they get Dallas or whatever. And then, maybe Luca gets hurt or something. Boom. You're in the finals already.
So I just don't see it. I don't know. It's just hard for me. It's just there was just no signs of it, and the roster is so different from
Yeah.
that team that was giving Phoenix hell in the first round last year. I mean,
Yeah.
Caruso's gone, Kuzma's gone, KCP is gone. Montrez wasn't playing, but man, I wish we had Montrez this year. You know,
Yeah.
um,
And Wilson, what
so
if you bought Laker tickets the um to the last season? Who's gonna want to go? It might be our time to go to a Laker game, bro. They might be cheap.
well, Clippers tickets are really
Oh,
cheap, like $2.
they could be in the finals. It'll be like $10.
But I can't get in because I'm not vaccinated. When are they going to lift the freaking vaccine mandate?
Hold on. Let me tell. Hold on. This is more important. So, did you see? Okay, so you know how Peyton Manning and Eli do that Monday night thing?
Hmm
Well, did you see for the women's college national championship, Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird were doing something like that, and they were just. It looked like they were drinking and they were just wilding out, bro. And now these are girls on ESPN. And somebody said, "Well, it's a game of inches." And they clearly were doing a double meaning joke, and they're like, "Well, do you take those inches?" And she's like, "Me? No." and they just had like this awkward laugh because obviously they're lesbian, so they don't take inches. What if, like, bro? What if it was dudes up there making the
They
equivalent of
kicked
this?
Chris. They
I
fired
fucking got
Paul Pierce.
fired.
They fired Paul Pierce for being on Instagram Live playing poker with his buddies.
Off, and he was off the clock, bro.
Is Sue Bird a lesbian too?
Yeah,
She's a
they're all.
lesbian.
She plays in the WNBA, bro. Of course.
Even the ones, it's like even the ones who are like, Candace Parker has a
Hold on, hold on,
kid.
hold on. Like Diana Taurasi, they were drinking out of a red cup, and I think Diana Taurasi was drunk, and for some reason, the length of the cocks is long. Clearly, that's what she said. And the other two girls, the I don't know, Kelsey Plum, who looks like a baddie. They're just laughing, bro. They're just laughing, and it's like, God damn, man, these girls. Another just, you know, uh, example of how these bitches can just say whatever.
I used to have a crush on Candace Parker when she first came into the league, and she had a kid with Sheldon Williams, and then she came
Yeah,
out as lesbian.
that was random, right?
Yeah,
And
Sheldon
when
Williams.
they told me they were married, I was like, what? Because remember, Candace Parker coming into the draft, she was the next LeBron, bro.
Yeah, and she was hella pretty. She's older now. She's still pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but she's 60s.
she ruined the TNT broadcast though. She
Yeah,
ruined it
Shaq.
because you can't say
If she
no.
like Shaq lets her get away with so much. If she was a dude, you see how he does with Barkley.
Yeah,
Because that's just another example of what we're talking about. She can sit up there and poke at Shaq and take
just
shots at Shaq.
roast him, just
Yeah,
roast him.
and he has to take it and play nice about it just because she's a woman. You know,
Yeah,
this sounds like the other podcast now.
but moving forward, I mean, just real quick without getting into too much stats. Next year, do you have faith in this current um, organization, regardless of what moves they make? It doesn't matter. Do you think they have what it takes to get back to the playoffs next year?
Bro, I gotta think that they'll do something to get back in the playoffs. How do you have a LeBron James who's still good enough to average 30 points a game?
Mm-hmm.
How do you have an Anthony Davis who's still, not haven't turned 30 years old yet?
Talent
And
wise, he's a top five player.
we know what he can be and what he can do. You should never have two guys like that and not be able to make the playoffs. And Westbrook said yesterday after last night after the game, he said that's the plan for him to, return next season.
No, he
I
said he
mean,
wants to, but he does. It's not. It's out of his. Yeah, basically the same shit.
yeah. So it would be crazy if all three. But the thing is that if all three of them, if Westbrook is back, you can't really do that much to change the roster. You're gonna have to just basically try to do the same thing again and just pick better, scrap pieces this year. This, like pick everybody, it's like they just picked. I mean, they just picked everything was wrong basically, outside of LeBron and AD. Every other piece was wrong. So the scrap parts that they pick and the role players they get this offseason, guys they're signing for the minimum and these, smaller contracts, they're gonna have to be better fits. All right, so before we get out of here, just a reminder to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. The show is also on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and every other major podcatcher. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network and to like it on Facebook. Just search for the Complete Podcast Network. Send feedback and mailback questions to CompleteLakersPodcast@gmail.com. We are out.